that got cut off.
We are live. Yeah, it seems to like doing that every single time. And we lost Campbell simultaneously. Off to a
A
good late start.
complete collapse.
Yay! Technical issues. All
Well,
right.
he's pretty far away from us, so we'll let him off this time.
Every time it's a constant 4 seconds delay from the outer realms of Australia to North America.
Yeah, he's only 25,000 kilometers away.
Right? Like a world away, a world away. So we are
Pretty much.
live on AutoDidactic, on Xirtus, and my two channels. Sadly, not on Faraday Research, but that will happen on the next one.
Yeah.
Andreas should be joining us any moment. He's just fighting the freeways of LA right now, or California right now, trying to make it to his place. And Campbell should be rejoining any moment. He was with us up until we went live. Until
got
he
booted.
gets back, though, it's getting late in Toronto. So do you want to give us some of your updates, good Mr.
Well, I did a lot of stuff in the last 2 weeks. Totally rebuilt the Adams motor, rebuilt the frame, redid all the wiring. I built a new framework for the wheel to spin inside because now I'm getting up to some like serious RPM levels. So probably the biggest dramatic thing that I've noticed with the motor, I'm getting an incredible amount of torque out of the Adams motor, which it's actually not known for. It's known for basically, all the other stuff, the energy related stuff, but for some reason, my motor is exhibiting huge amount of torque for a pulse motor. That's kind of unheard of.
That's
But
huge, right? Because that's like the other type of energy within the motor, the system that you're able to
yeah,
harness.
yeah. So it was kind of one of my theories if I could get it up to a high RPM and have a decent size mass of a wheel. Mine's about, I would say it's almost a pound. So you get that spinning at 4,000 RPM, you're going to have quite a bit of torque behind it. And even when I slow the motor down, like forcefully with my hand, grab the actual axle and slow it down, it gives me a fight. I actually have to really tug on it, grasp on the axle pretty hard to get that thing to slow down. So it's showing it's creating a lot of inertia, a lot of torque. It's exhibiting, the flywheel qualities, right? And even more so now that I built the case around the actual wheel chamber that it runs in, that it doesn't kick up too much air, so a lot less air friction to slow it down. Now that's not there anymore. I've closed it all in a confined space. Now, if I actually had it where I could actually depressurize the chamber, even better so, but I don't have the facilities to actually do that. The last major upgrade I just did last night, I got my new ceramic titanate piezoelectric transducer. It's a high powered one. It's 60 watts and it could run at 40 kilohertz. So I'm getting huge power gains with this. So actually, I got a bit of a lifter. Um, I disconnected the ground wire just to see what would happen if I disconnected it while I was running, and then the motor drew a huge load. So I start pulling a lot of power into the circuit. Went over an amp, actually almost hit 2 amps, and then I put back the ground wire to the piezo, and I had a electrical arc come off about a centimeter, almost an inch. It scared the heck out of me, and could have gave me a really good jolt, but I was lucky. I was holding on to the wire. Now I don't have it posted with the new piezo on there, but I do have like the motor case. So maybe you just can show that if you want. It's in my last video there.
Okay, let's bring that up then. And I'm posting your channel in the live chat for everybody interested in it. You've been doing a lot of videos over the last few years here, and for anyone interested, they can see the evolution of it all.
Yeah, so it's a huge learning process. Like I've been working on this motor for I would say about 5 years, and I think I've gone way past that I thought I would be. Uh, Things really changed for the better since I introduced the piezoelectrics into this circuit. It made a huge impact.
It is. Should I let you talk over it as opposed to
Yeah,
the motor running?
yeah, I can do that. So yeah, I was just doing a little test of the motor, just kind of debuting its new look, painted everything, just cleaned everything up. So in this video, I was actually charging the capacitor there, running a 300-watt inverter, and then running the lights with the inverter. So I proved with the motor that I was able to sustain the charge in the capacitor to keep that inverter running. And yeah, so that was really good. Um, kind of added my TV in there. I made a little graphic thing for the TV, so if I do videos, I'll have that graphic in the background. So, but
Yeah,
anyways,
I like it.
yeah, add
Good
a little
luck.
bit of flair, add a little flair to it. Yeah. So there I am. I'm lighting up all the light bulbs now using the inverter. Now it's not fully powered up. Mind you, I don't have the new piezo in this video. I just hooked up the new one last night. But yeah, it's really starting to show its real true potential, um, that I'm
Right,
able
that's
to.
with the torque too. And this is since you
Yeah,
did the rebuild of the 3D printed model, right? So this is like your
yeah.
second build of this model, right?
Actually, yeah, probably I would say third or fourth. I've had a few other ones before that, but this one's
So,
getting really refined. I'm really starting to refine the design and the components, and it's just years of trial and error, and trying different, um, you know, just trying different things, experimenting. You got to get on the bench and experiment. If you don't experiment, you're never going to see your results in front of you. So yeah, it's just the last 5 years was a huge learning curve, right? So yeah, I got the lights lit up. They're not fully lit, but they're working, right?
they're pretty
So
right. It's like that's a lot of lights off of one motor, and
well, yeah, the thing is, you have to understand the inverter that people use. It doesn't matter what model it is. It's actually a very inefficient system. Now, I can fully illuminate those lights without the inverter, just directly hooked up to the motor. And there's a few reasons for this. Um, we will start first with the amount of voltage. Okay, actually, we'll back up here a couple of steps. So, what my motor actually does with the piezoelectrics, it creates a condition called reactive power. Okay, now reactive power by electrical engineers is not considered real power. The best analogy I can give you of what reactive power is, you get a glass and you pour a beer in it, and you got the foam on top, and then you got the beer at the bottom. Well, the foam on top takes more space up. That's the reactive power. Okay. So it's there, it's got the voltage, but it does not have, excuse me, the energy density of real power, or the wattage. So the idea is to figure out how to get that reactive power into a medium that it's condensed and becomes real power. And the way you do that is put it, well, first things first, you have to put it through a full wave bridge rectifier. And then from there it goes into a capacitor bank. That's where now that reactive power is now transformed and condensed into quote unquote real power. It's no longer reactive power. But you get a huge amount of power bursts with reactive power. Now, in most electrical engineering, what they do to compensate for this power surge in a motor is they'll put a filter capacitor there, and that will reduce the amount of surging or the back EMF generated by the motor. So what I'm doing exactly the opposite. I'm actually harnessing this power that is normally grounded out or filtered out by a capacitor bank. So it's just a different way of approaching of how you design and build a motor. See, the other motors is all waste. So what I'm doing is the power that's normally wasted or grounded out, I'm utilizing that in the motor. So the motor becomes exponentially more efficient because of this. So I'm harnessing the reactive power in the motor and making it do work. And that's the key to this motor.
Right.
So,
It's the efficiencies and how inefficient the old electrical system and power usage is, and that it's not free energy out of nowhere. It's figuring out how to make the efficiencies and the inefficiencies of the old and applying a bunch of more efficient systems together and bringing in the resonant energy and surrounding energy into tappable, usable energy.
well, I think the key to this motor, it's just basically taking the motor, stripping it down, and redesigning it from the ground up. Okay, your regular motor to do what I'm doing right now, that motor will probably draw about, I would say about 2.8 amps to do exactly what I'm doing right now. Okay, so you figure about 13 watts of power. I'm doing it for less than half that. Like my wattage is, I think the test I did that night, it was pulling as low as 1.6 watts and as high as 13 at some points. In some parts of the test, I was trying different voltages and different configurations, but when it comes down to it, efficiency wise, this motor will basically outperform most motors that are in production right now, because it just runs a totally different way, a totally different method. So now I'm at the point now where it's creating so much excess power at a very, very minute amount of current to do it. And now I'm starting to see massive torque developing in the motor now, which pulse motors are not known for. They're usually a very weak motor. They don't have the torque. This motor is showing me a lot of torque and a lot of power. So that means there's now stored energy within that wheel. See how the container looks? So that 3D printed container, which holds the wheel now, that took me almost 10 hours to print. So it's really starting to help the performance of the motor. It's reducing the air drag of the air going around the motor. It's concealing it, so there's less turbulence. It's able to spin faster. So I've been able to get that thing. Well, the fastest recorded speed I've done with that motor is about 5,200 RPM. So the thing was screaming, and I was not even putting a watt in. I was putting 0.986 watts and the thing was doing over 5,000 RPM. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's really come a long way. Now I got the new transducer. Yeah, I got to put it up on the scope and do some serious load testing on it. Now, the other thing that my motor exhibits that other regular motors will not do, if you take a regular motor off the shelf, hook it up to a power supply, turn it on, okay, and when you grab the shaft to slow it down, the amount of current that goes into the motor now is going to probably triple. It's going to rise because of the lens effect. When you put a physical force to slow it down, the amperage of the current going into the device is going to rise. Okay, when I do this with my motor, I could slow it down to a stop and the current stays the same. So it's defeating one of the laws of Lenz's law when it comes to that. So that means I could put a physical load on this motor, like hook it up to a regular generator, spin it, and if I start putting a load on that generator, it's going to create the lens effect within that generator. It's going to slow my motor down, but my motor is not going to draw any more power. It's going to stay the same, which is actually pretty intriguing when you think about it. So that was, the model I had before, and then I changed it over to the new one. So, yeah, it's come a long way in the last 6 months. Made some huge progress with that motor.
Nice.
And I've had a few people try the piezos out on their system and going, yeah, it works. And I go, yeah, I know it works. You have to study the piezoelectric effect and what happens. So now I got a pretty good piezo hooked up to it now. It's a 60 watt at 40 kilohertz. So this thing can handle a huge amount of power going into it. And the reaction when the electricity hits that ceramic piezo it's pretty violent. It's a pretty violent reaction, and it really pumps out. It creates power. I'm not putting any extra power into it. It's taking that power in, hitting the ceramic composition, and because it's a quartz inside of it, it's actually amplifying the power. So yeah, I'm making huge gains with it.
So you're using a quartz crystal for the piezoelectric side to get to squeeze the piezoelectricity out.
Yeah, the quartz crystal is inside the piezoelectric transducer. It's part of what makes the transducer do what it does. It's the reaction of when you hit quartz with electricity, it basically gives a huge effect. It creates extra power. It's actually magnifying the power. It's increasing the EMF with the reactive power. Okay. So a lot of this motor too is
when you produce pressure. Is that right?
Well, that's one way of using it. See, all the YouTube channels out there show the ways to use the piezo. I'm using it a totally different way. I'm hammering it with power and getting a gain back. So it's almost like a boomerang effect I'm getting. So what's happening is the initial EMF is created in the coil. When the field collapses, that power goes into the piezo transducer, hammers the voltage way up, the reactive power is created, and because there's no diode in that part of the circuit, it goes in both directions. One goes back to the coil and the other one goes out to the load. So because of this boomerang effect that's happening, it's like an oscillation that I'm recreating in the back part of the circuit. And because of that, that's why I'm getting the huge gains, because of this boomerang effect. It's sending that reactive power back into the coil again, and then basically like an explosion comes ripping back out again. So yeah, I've been pondering on exactly what is happening in my circuit. Now, if I were to have a diode between the coil and the piezoelectric, I think the effect would actually decrease, because I think the fact that it's open right now is that reactive power is going in both directions. It's adding extra potential to the coil as well as pushing out through the back to the load. So yeah, it's a very... Go ahead.
Okay. You go.
Yeah, so when I put it up to the scope with the pieces that I had, I was actually hitting, my high voltage spikes were hitting about 1 kilovolt. So I was getting pretty high. Now that I got the better piezo, I gotta hook that up this weekend and see what kind of values I'm getting.
Wow.
I think they're gonna be pretty good.
How cool.
Amazing work, Mr. Mike. A lot of it's over like some people's heads, but it's like the more we hear it, the more you get into it, the more you look, the more you understand each time. And it's that like you've taught yourself all of this, right? Like you started from the ground up. You didn't go to school for electronics.
Nope.
And you've just learned it, built it, and kept experimenting it and putting it all together.
Yeah, you gotta get on the bench. You gotta actually get your hands dirty and put the circuit. Like this motor, when you see the circuit, it's so easy. It's ridiculously easy. You know, you don't have to be an electrical engineer to make the circuit I made. If you go through all the videos and learn about the motor and how the circuit is hooked up, you're going to go, holy crap, it's that easy? Yeah, it's that easy. It's not hard. It's a very simple circuit. So pretty much the whole device, other than the proximity sensor that I use for the timing, that's the only electronic device on it. The rest of it's all analog. There really isn't any electronics on this thing at all. It's analog. And that's why it runs so reliable.
And that's actually a key point of the analog, and that when people are working with these sorts of energies, that in electricity experiments, you have to use analog. It's not going to work in the digital.
Yep. As soon as you go digital, you destroy the electricity. You destroy it. I'll fight anybody right to the very end. This is like everybody out there is still hung up on using the MOSFETs and transistors. You don't get the same effect. You gotta go 100% analog. Then you'll get the effects. Without that, even Robert Adams in his patent says you must use a commutator, or what I'm using a relay switch that's analog. And it's the only way. If Robert Adams, he designed that motor back in the 60s, and he says the only way you get the gains and charging the battery is going by analog, no digital components. That's my water machine.
Nice.
I'm going to be doing a big upgrade.
How you going?
Hey,
yeah, so Benjamin, welcome, Odin's Alchemy. Do you got any questions for Mike? Because I know that you're quite the electric individual with your solar units, all your batteries, everything you're doing out on your farm. Got any questions for Mr. Mike so far?
I don't so far. I always enjoy. I don't know how I wasn't subbed to Mike before, because I've always enjoyed watching him with you guys. And I don't know how I either neglected that or got unsubbed or something. I remedied that. Yeah, love your work, brother.
Thanks. Yeah, it's taken a long time. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a major upgrade on the water machine soon. I got some new ideas. I just got my new pump in last night, and that thing pumps 3,000 liters an hour. So yeah, I'm gonna have a lot more. The whole idea of how I create the vortex is gonna be new. So yeah, there's gonna be a big upgrade on that machine coming up.
So do you want to describe a little bit about what you're doing with the water? Like you're putting signals in, you're also making it in the vortex. And then are you going to try to do magnetic structured too, or what's your next step with this one?
Yeah, it's just I'm refining the design to make the machine create the vortex. The vortex is the key. You got to go back, do your homework on Victor Schauberger and his science. And when you have a firm grasp of what his science is, then you'll understand this machine. Then I take a step further. I add piezo's to the tank to create the tones of 528 hertz or 432 hertz, and I pulse that into the water to actually change the resonant frequency of the water, because water can retain resonant frequency. And the magnets are basically what they do is they polarize and neutralize the water. So if there's any transient electromagnetic fields within the water, they'll neutralize it and realign the molecules of the water into a coherent fashion. And then when you do the vortex spin, that's where the real magic happens. That's where the real structuring of the water takes place. So it's a combination of a few things that go on. So my friend Mr. X was the guy who kind of introduced me to this water. He had it recently tested, and they found about the yield in growing. He's actually doing it for a grow-up company here in Canada, and the master grower's been doing some testing with the plants, and it seems by their test that they did for about 3 months, uh, it's showing about a 30% gain in growth. So,
and that's just from the vortexing. And then is that in soil or is that hydroponically?
it's hydroponic. Yeah, it's a grow lab. His friend is a master grower for I forget the name of the company, but yeah, they did some pretty extensive testing with it, and they're showing about a 30% gain in the growth rate, right from germination right to the plant maturing.
And that's
So
just with vortexing?
vortexing, as far as I know, he was adding a couple of elements. He was doing gold plating on the inside of the chamber where he was doing the structuring. So he's been testing few elements. Some of them he won't tell me because it's kind of his intellectual property.
He should try adding HHO into the setup.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, break the water down into HHO, and that's supposed to what I think in hydroponics is supposed to 10 times is what they say.
Yeah,
10 times the growth in hydro, only 3 times in soil, and 3 times in soil.
right.
Yeah, that's something I got to get more into as well, Mike. You're talking about it a lot. Is the electrolysis and starting to harvest the gases and figure out if we're making the HHO mist and harvesting it or utilizing it, or the straight hydrogen, oxygen, or whether it's the H4 like you were saying as well, right?
Yeah, it's the plasmoids that are being created with the HHO gas that a lot of people don't actually look at. The closer the plates are together, and you have cavitation with the water through those plates, the plasmoids that are being created between the hydrogen and oxygen, they could get released into the situation and actually create more potent of make the water more potent, more I guess the effects increase. I know for implosion, yeah, it's a big deal when you start dealing with the plasmoid that's being created between the anode and cathode. So that's one thing a lot of people haven't looked at. Moray King has studied it extensively and showing that there's huge gains for implosion. It's all in the design. It's all in the engineering.
Absolutely. Moray B. King, he's got some really good presentations on the Tesla Tech YouTube channel, as well as Global EBM, Breakthrough Energy Movement YouTube channels. And yeah, he's a top researcher in the field. I actually got to talk to him briefly at the end of his last stream on Tesla Tech. I got to get a hold of him. He's just next level in taking all the research, like the real research with the crazy electron microscopes and the imaging of these hydrogen plasmoid clusters and their different vortex shapes, and it's just nuts.
Another
I can never say the word right. Sonoluminescence, is that correct?
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, another guy that's really good that you might want to try to get a hold of is Walter Jenkins. He was making an engine that ran basically on the plasmoid. He's actually got a patent out that he actually got the patent. It's out there. Look up Walter Jenkins water electrolyzer. So his system doesn't actually create hydrogen at all. It's all the plasmoid. And that plasmoid's now injected into the car engine and running car engines. So, yeah, I think he's been threatened a few times. So he kind of went into the foxhole, so to speak, for a while. Because I assume the oil cartels don't like this invention too much. So
yeah, George Weissman is who I get a lot of the tech that I was doing with that from, and he's got a few devices also, especially ones that go on some different carburetors, and they've tried to sue him a number of times, and it's not panned out for him up in Canada anyways.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys here in Canada doing that stuff.
Yeah, he says that his works the best if it's a carburetor, it's got a Venturi in it. For whatever reason, Venturi really makes a specific difference in the way that operates. And there's a Ford, I can't remember which one he said, and it specifically got the best Venturi on it. And he said that's the best one to run that hydrogen machines through.
Right. I heard they work really well with diesel engines. In a diesel engine.
I'm getting ready to try it. I am getting ready to try it. I've got 2 diesel generators here. I will let you gentlemen know. I'm told 3 times the fuel efficiency. We will find out.
Yeah, cool.
Really? That's exciting. Because it's like I've got a few friends that want to start working on the same project. So let me know immediately how that starts going, and should have a couple more to work with.
Is that HHO?
Yeah, my lab's running. What's that, Campbell?
Is that both fuels? Is that diesel as well as HHO, or purely HHO?
So you enrich the diesel. You enrich the diesel with the HHO, and because of the way diesels work, diesels aren't like where a car, you're misting it into the cylinder, and then you're using a spark to cause the explosion, where with a diesel, it's actually compression that's causing the explosion. So supposedly this really works well in a diesel system because a hydrogen makes that explosion happen so easy. So you enrich it with that hydrogenation, and it's supposed to really give some bang for the buck in diesels.
Yeah, it's implosion. Yeah, everybody has to realize it's not explosion, it's an implosion.
Yeah, the hydrogen itself, because it's a fusion type. It's when I give my presentation, that's what I talk about. Like in the galvanic cell, the anode side's an oxygenation where the particles breaking apart, and you're getting a fission type reaction. But over on the cathode, you're getting a fusion type reaction through the hydrogen where the particles actually coming back together. And it's a much more powerful reaction.
Yeah, and safer too. Especially especially when you get into fusion reactors like the ones they're working on in California. It's a safer. It's a safer type ignition. It's implosion. Where, if you use fission, it's an explosive. That's where you get the radiation and all the nuclear waste.
Yeah.
Well, the fusion doesn't have this. That's why they're really pushing this fusion technology. They're working on it, I believe, in Western Canada. I think in Vancouver, they got a fusion reaction facility that they're doing a lot of research. So it's being done all over the world. It's going to come online, but they say, oh yeah, it's not going to come online. You won't see it in your neighborhood for at least 30 years. It's like, well, we should have been working on this stuff 30 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, why is it just coming to fruition now? It should have been done 30 years ago.
Well, and when it's really going to get interesting, because they really need to have is an interplay system, because where the problem, what radiation really is just ion overload. You've gotten rid of all the electrons, because the electrons make a beeline, and now you've not got enough mercurial fluid, whatever type of electrolytic fluid you're using, to soak up the ions to transfer that over to where it needs to go. If we can figure out a system to interplay back and forth, that's where the things are really going to get hot, because now you're not losing anything.
Yeah.
Because now you can use both sides. But you've got to have some place for that ion overload to go.
Yeah. Yeah, they're playing with fire. Look what happened to Fukushima and, Chernobyl. Those disasters, people don't realize the magnitude of the disaster. All that nuclear waste going into the air, going into the oceans, affecting the fish and everybody in its path.
I'm not sure I believe it either, though, brother, at all. I mean, three of the four nuclear disasters in this known history have all happened in a tiny island of Japan, and they have healthier birth rates than any other country in the world. So I'm not sure how to add that kind of thing up. Like this tiny island should be under nuclear winter for the foreseeable future. We should be in Star Trek before people quit glowing over there, and they're fine. So I don't know what to say about that. And I just saw somebody. There's a new product that's some kind of an animals or plants being harvested from the Chernobyl area, which is apparently just rife with plants and animals, like overrun. So I'm not even sure what to say about that whole story. And once again, when you start even looking at a nuclear decay chain, you start really having weird thoughts about how the elements themselves work and the interchange in between them. Because everything's that's all it really is an interchange between these pieces. And honestly, when you start really looking at the particles, like if you look at the uranium decay chain, uranium becomes like 23 other things, including like bismuth, radium, lead, and all it is the number of protons in the isotope that makes it into what it is. And then that's why, like, if it's radium and you mix it with thorium, then you can that puts more neutrons in it. Now that it's got more neutrons, it can hold more protons, and now it becomes new uranium or enriched uranium, yada yada. So it's all.
So what would you think the effects of this nuclear waste going into the ocean water, the salt water, would it somehow filter it out, or do you think it's still very active in the water?
So salt water is that's your natural electrolytic fluid, in any battery it's going to be a salt water. And the ions, so in the galvanic cell, when you really look at it, can you pull up a galvanic cell, Bernie?
Yes. Yes, I can. One.
Campbell's closet. I don't see a cathode or an anode anywhere in his closet.
Hey there.
Simon, hello.
I was so quiet there for a
Stupid
second, I thought I lost audio.
So when you look at it, this one's a little bit harder of an example, but when you look at it, when this piece over in the anode breaks apart, what happens is a particle actually breaks apart, and the electron, just the electron portion of that, makes a beeline and shoots right over to the cathode. And then the anode portion of it, it actually flows into this electrolytic fluid, and that's what goes through the salt bridge. And then that's what goes over. So it's the cations and anions that are passing back and forth through the electrolytic fluid, but the electron's taking a hard line. So now with this nuclear waste, you don't have a heavy load of electron, you've got a heavy load of ion, or the proton side. And so it's just releasing the shit out of those. Well, naturally, if those go into salt water, that's where it's supposed to go, is into that mercurial fluid to be held. And then this is where all the stories of Mercury being the psychopomp, where he champions the souls of the dead over to where they belong. So that electron is already over at the cathode. It's through the mercurial fluid that the ion makes its way over to the cathode and merges back with the electron, and it becomes a whole thing again. So that's naturally, that salt water is going to take those ions and grab them and just move them where they need to be.
So it's basically the Earth is a self-correcting,
system. That's why I don't.
Self-correcting system. Yeah.
That's why I don't get even bent out of shape about this stuff. It doesn't. I mean, I'm not saying go around and trash the world, but the fact is the world, even everything. Look at the sun. The sun is creating a distillation. What does distillation do? It purifies and cleans. And then by mainstream science, the sun is hydrogen driven, which that's the end of distillation, where hydrogen gas is off like nothing. Like bam, that's why you use hydrocarbons as all your different solvents, because hydrogen, woo. And so it's just distilling the different levels and purifying. And then the moon comes out, and then you get the cold side, and then it all comes back down, and everything settles back where it needs to be. Everything cleans itself out in cycles in this world that you cannot. I mean, we don't really make anything up. Like, there's nothing that really, I mean, we can act like chemicals, and they are. The state that they're in is unnatural, but we haven't actually ever created anything. We take and purify or move around things that already exist.
Yeah, we're just rearranging stuff, and nature just has a way of putting it back to its natural state and neutralizing things.
Yep. Exactly. And all these bonds can be broken, and all of them can be rearranged. And that's all we're learning to do. And if you ask me, this is Jeffrey Drum, actually, the guy I was talking about with the electrical experiment inside the pyramid with the stones that I got to talk to you guys about at some other point. He went in and he has an entire alternative theory. Rather than the pyramids being power generators, they were actually they still would generate power, but it was through alchemical manufacturers. He was doing chemical processing in there. And the walls, where they've been claiming that it's batshit all these years, they went in and had the batshit tested, and it's not. It's isolated elements, including thorium, which moves neutrons, and makes it so you can add protons, which changes an element into something else entirely.
Right? Like you're just describing so much of my own electrolysis experiments and whatnot. I've just been loving listening to that, Ben. And right here, I've got some quartz gold ore. And Mike, before you talked about, you mentioned about how the process, there's like this alchemy process to experiment to grow the gold crystals. So I want to set up a couple different versions of that right now. One of which I'm going to put this on the anode side of a reaction as well. One of the pieces.
Yeah, John Bedini was playing with this stuff back in the early 80s. Yeah, he was interacting with this gentleman by the name of John Serjanka. And if you watch the Energy from the Vacuum series, he has a whole thing on John Serjanka. And he talks about this type of transformation of metals into gold. So basically, the atomic formula for creating gold, you use this red powder. I forget what it was. I think it's iron, red iron, and it's like in a powder form. And he pours that on a slab.
I don't think that's what it is. I think honestly, it is cinnabar. So cinnabar. I think because you sweat to get mercury, to get silver mercury, you sweat cinnabar,
right?
And then, but cinnabar itself is red. So the thing that they aren't doing is adding the salt back into the mercury, which would be the cinnabar in and of itself. So if you cook that down and grind that up just like you would any other alchemical experiment, it would be a red powder, right?
Yeah, so he did that. He put that powder on top of copper, and copper is the other equation to create gold. So it's that powder with copper, and he was getting basically 24 karat gold after he would fire it at 2,500 degrees for about 20 minutes. So the powers to be didn't like that too much, that he was making gold in his lab, and actually had it, I guess the, what do you call it, testing from metal elements, and it showed atomically that it was gold. He actually transmutated it. So he got some flack for that one. He got all this knowledge from John Serjanka. He's a pretty interesting character. He also made a magnet that could lift gold. And as you know, gold is not magnetic. Well, he developed this magnet that actually could lift gold. Unfortunately, the device is a little bit dangerous. After you use it, most people who have used it got very sick after. So I don't know if there's some radioactivity happening there. You use it for a very, very short period of time. Don't leave it on for a long period of time. So his brother's still alive, and he says, I used the device a couple of times and I got really sick afterwards. I felt really bad. So the device obviously is emitting some kind of radiation of some kind or whatever. We don't know. So check it out, the Energy of the Vacuum series.
Weird. So your normal galvanic cell does a transmutation also, where that particle, the silver particle, like if the anode is silver and the cathode is gold, as the anode breaks down, the cathode actually gets larger, and those particles will actually transmute through the electrolytic fluid. And I mean, people don't normally think of it that way, but it's the cathode's actually gaining size. So those silver particles, when they're coming back together, and this is something I've been trying to figure out, and something that I've been looking at even with the mud floods, because when you run, take a HHO machine and you run that for a while, assuming your plates are steel or iron, you'll get this iron sludge that develops inside your electrolytic fluid.
Yeah.
And you're doing an electrolysis process, not a galvanic. And so one would assume that you're degrading the plates and the electrodes. But George Weissman, after 3 years of cleaning out his machine, ended up with 19 pounds of sludge, which is about the same weight as the whole machine, not just the plates and the electrodes. And he took the plates and the electrodes out, and those weighed the same. So there was no deterioration happening. So as
transmutation.
It could also be pulling stuff from the air. Like when a tree grows, it's not pulling all that stuff from the ground. It's pulling it from the air.
Agreed. Now, here's that. I 100% agree with that. Now, as the electrons are going through the plates, is there a programming for what ions that it's pulling? And it's pulling ions and calling for ions that specifically are iron type isotope, so that way they can merge back together with said electron. The system's just not go shut the fire door. Holy smoke. Fire's popping. Cold tonight. So is it programming that and pulling that out of the air? So then I was also curious of other metals. If you change the metals of the electrodes, would it change? So then what I find is all these people that think that they're making colloidal silver by sticking 2 silver electrodes into a solution and running electricity through it. And, you're not, they're just running an electrolysis process on the water at that point. I wonder if that's pulling, because then the people I've seen doing that, there is an ionic fluid that ends up in there. Is it pulling that out of the air? Is it programming that as it runs through that system? When you run the electron through it, because the electron would be the stable masculine side, would the ion just want to match it then?
Not too sure if that's going to be breaking it down, maybe. Because you're using both silver on each anode and cathode. So now you're going to transmutate it into something that it's its polar opposite, right? So apparently there is a chart out there that shows every single element and what its polar opposite is when it's transmutated. Yeah, it's interesting science. I haven't really focused too much on the HHO stuff since about 2006. That was probably the first to get my feet wet, in this whole energy thing. So, yeah, eventually I'll get back into it.
Well, and like if you watch the videos that just came out with the guy that for over Unity, and they ran them lasers into two different isotopes of hydrogen, and I think it was I think they got like almost 2 kilojoules extra energy coming back out.
Yeah, it's pretty substantial gain, yeah. Yeah, my motor. Go ahead.
Yeah, they were using 2 different isotopes of hydrogen as like the fuel, as like the driver for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more into the electrical stuff at this point right now. Trying to stay focused on one experiment. The water thing I do on the side. I got other stuff on the go, so I try to stay focused on the atoms motor right now.
I guess since I do things from so much off grid, it's all just for me, it's the same, because half of my systems ran off of batteries and everything else, which is a chemical electrical reaction. So it's you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm finding the inverters that they build today are very inefficient. They're actually a very inefficient system. See, I was listening to, actually, it's on the Energy of the Vacuum series. I forget the guy's name. He was a NASA engineer. He was a diagnostic engineer, and he was studying a lot of free energy devices. He's only known 3 in his 25 years of doing it that were actually exhibiting over Unity. And he was talking about, what was it? Oh, it just slipped my mind. It's late. He was talking about, what was it? Oh, this one device. He was talking about where he had 2 toroids. They were linked together like a chain, and that was getting about 18-1 power gain. Now, his backstory on that, he said he was abducted, went on a ship, and he's seen this device on the alien spacecraft. And he rebuilt what he saw on that ship and created the device. So that's pretty interesting right there. He also built quite a few circuits for Floyd Sweet. His device, he says, was real. It was a real device. But most of the concepts and ideas and the secret sauce to it, pretty much went to the grave with Floyd. And what was the other one I was going to talk about? So, yeah, he has got a really good section in the video on Energy of the Vacuum. Definitely that one you should watch too. It's a lot of cool stuff he talks about. So, Bernie there still? Oh, there he is. Yeah.
All right, I'm listening in the background, trying to strip some wire to wrap around the piece of gold quartz, or to hook up into one of these electrolysis experiments before the stream is done, doing some live alchemy science experiments while we go. Do you want to continue on, Mike? Did you have more to say on that topic, or do you want cobalt glass lens there quick?
Yeah, I got the cobalt here. It's supposedly this glass can see orgone energy. So this came from an old light, utility light. I'm not sure exactly what it was for, but it's pretty big. It's about 3.5-inch diameter, cobalt blue. And
They
when you look,
sell glasses that have that are like $400 or something in Russia.
Yeah. Those type of lenses is supposedly be able to see orgone energy with it. So if you build yourself an accumulator, you can see it with it.
Yeah, super neat. A guy at Flattoberfest had those glasses, and he was telling us about them, and I got to try them on. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking about trying to construct a Cloudbuster next summer, so we'll see if I get to that. Supposedly they work, so I've read quite a bit on Wilhelm Reich and his work. He actually had this cell. It was an orgone accumulator. It's about the size of a pack of cigarettes. And the second he put his hand on it, it would turn an electric motor. So somehow it was harnessing either the power from his body or whatever, because we hold our orgone in our body. Second he put his hand on it, it actually made the motor spin. So there's a lot of stuff out there to research.
Interlocking layers of organic and inorganic material.
Yeah, it's everything. It's the life force energy of everything. Yeah. So and he died in jail, because the FDA had a problem with him. And the day the day before he was supposed to get released, he died mysteriously in jail. So, and they burned a lot of his books. They destroyed a lot of his machines he created. And actually, the building he worked in is still there today. There's a cloudbuster sitting outside that hasn't been touched in like 50 years. So
was it Reich that was like 12 tons of research material that got removed?
Yep. Most of it was books. That's when the U.S. the Americans did the biggest book burning of, science research, censorship. The FDA was obviously all bent out of shape on what he was doing. Definitely a good read, though. Read up on Wilhelm Reich. I've read up pretty much everybody, as many people as I can. Because
Reich is Orgon energy, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Which isn't like the orgonite things that they make today. It was specifically overlaid layers of organic and inorganic material, not just a bunch of crystals and chips and
it's basically
which I'm not saying those are cool, but it's not the same.
Yeah, it's basically what Eric Dollar did some experiments with it. He basically calls it a longitudinal static electric capacitor. Now, the only difference with this capacitor is the outside plate's not there. It's open. So you would have like metal, then organic, material, metal, then organic. And some of the best accumulators were about 20 layers. So they had these little sheds they would make out of wood, put all the different layers in and insulation, and you'd actually go inside, sit on a chair, and just sit there for a while, absorb the orgone.
Yeah, that's what got him put in prison. Was one of his assistants shipped one of those machines out of state, and once it crossed state lines, it was considered a medical device, and then the FDA nailed him. Yeah, sad story, that one. Yeah, there's a lot of people to study. There's a lot of it's one thing I've been doing a lot in the last 5 years is a lot of reading. Listen to a lot of lectures, just educating myself basically, and it's helped me create my devices to kind of get a good outside kind of perspective of what I'm actually constructing, what's actually happening in my motor. Learning what electricity really is, right? Because you could ask a lot of electrical engineers and they won't give you the right answer what electricity is. Even Tesla never knew exactly what electricity was. Nobody does. We can only speculate, but we do know the only thing that will manifest electricity is dielectricity and magnetism. You can't have one without the other. You have to have those two combinations together to get electricity. And you don't generate electricity, you manifest it. The electricity is already there. You're just bringing it in.
Thank you for joining us. You got to take off.
Yeah, I got to take off as well. I got to drop tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
Love you, Bernie.
Love you too, brother. Much love. Always a pleasure. Mike, Faraday, always a pleasure as well.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for sharing.
And we'll talk soon.
For sure, my friend. Much love. Okay. Happy holidays.
Yeah, you too. And Merry Christmas to your family, and to everybody who celebrates, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And get on the bench and start experimenting. That's your New Year's resolution.
Exactly, right? Let's all work together to make 2023 all the better and full of free energy for you and for me and all of you watching.
All right, Bernie, take care.
Have a good one, Mike.
Yeah, take care.
Simon, you still there, brother? You got any comments? Any questions?
Not really at the moment. No, I really just jump in when I have something relevant.
For sure, my friend. All right, so I'll quickly show off here. Here's Mike's YouTube page, Faraday Research. I will post it in the live chat, Mike's channel, and then, oops, whoopsie doodles, for all. Oops, oh, there we go, Mike's channel. And then also, I will post Ben's channel as well, Benjamin Balderson. One over here. Here we go. And then I will play the clip that I just had going, which is Stanley Meyer's HHO device and how he generated the hydrogen or HHO or some sort of plasmoid Brown's gas, it's also called. But it's quite fascinating to actually see it running compared to all the other electrolysis that I've seen out there. It's insane the amount of bubbles hydrogen that come off of it. And everybody on Xirtus's watching on Xirtus's channel, I swear, Andre. And this is some of.
Hey, I'm Joey, and I'm one of the 30 AI voices from SpeechLove. You listen to this video.
So you read all over the internet about people and they run their car on water and fuel cells and so on. You
can't run a car on water. Here, only the hydrogen that you need is.
So this right here now I'm playing in just to show the difference between Stan Meyer's, how easy it was, compared to this being Bob Lazar's hydrogen car, and it's ridiculous. He needs supposedly he has a particle accelerator and several other processes involved into getting his hydrogen, as opposed to just turning it into water, into fuel at the engine point.
Released from the tank.
So is the main difference with Stan Meyer that he's cycling the energy, the charge?
It's that I believe, and shout out Clemente Barraza for the super sticker for whatever channel it was on. Thank you for supporting the cause. It's Bob Lazar claims that that it's pure hydrogen that he's creating and then storing, and that it can't be stored in pressurized tanks because it's far too dangerous and explosive. Thus, he has to have this other chemical, I believe, that it dissolves into in the tanks, possibly. I forget the exact details, but that's why we're going to play it and listen to it right now.
There's never much gaseous hydrogen in the system at any given time.
So these are the fuel lines? No, what are these?
These are this provides power to the heater in the tank and also reads back the temperature of the tank.
Why is that important?
Well, when you apply heat to hydride, it releases hydrogen. So as power is applied to here, it heats the hydride,
right,
and then the gas comes out the big hoses on the end.
Yeah, you have 4 hoses. Do they all mix into one big hose or something?
Because you can only get hydrogen out of hydride at a certain rate with a certain temperature. And a single tank, you can't get it out at the volume you need. So you really just split it into 4 smaller units, heat them separately, and it works just fine.
Okay. Now behind me, Bob is getting ready to blow something up. Bob is blowing up water. Well, okay, he's not blowing up water because, as he said, to say you're powering your car on water is the same thing as saying if you're running your car on gasoline, you're powering your car on dinosaurs, and we know that's not the case. This is what?
This is a Hoffman apparatus.
And it's used to
produce hydrogen and oxygen from water.
for fun, just because it's cool?
Well, if you just have a use for hydrogen and oxygen or for demonstration purposes, it works just perfect. All you got to do is fill it with water.
That's just regular water, right?
Well, actually, water with a little citric acid, potassium hydroxide, anything like that. The more conductive you make the water, the faster hydrogen will come out.
And each one of these sides is supposed to be hydrogen and oxygen?
Right. One will be hydrogen will bubble up out of one, and oxygen will bubble up out of the other. Remember, water is H2O.
Right.
So when we break the bond of water apart, we'll get twice as much hydrogen gas as we do oxygen.
So each one of these tubes, the water just goes down, but what's left is the gas?
Right.
And there'll be more on this side?
Yes.
And that's the hydrogen side.
Exactly. And that's the negative.
Oh, so it matters which way you hook these up. So you got to hook up positive to what is the positive's going to make
positive will make the gas in, and then you'll see it'll start filling up. And what we'll do is take a little sample of the hydrogen gas and light it.
Right.
And you can see that.
What are these? You just have electrical current going to a piece of foil?
Well, it's a piece of platinum foil, and the reason you need platinum in there is because it's very corrosive to a metal for electrolysis to occur. But platinum is highly resistant to corrosion. Now, this is a slow method.
Right.
And, top model. This is a large industrial version, essentially, which connects right to the water main.
Right.
So you can plumb it in like you connect your, dishwasher.
Water pressure, like a syringe. It pushes it right into the tank.
Exactly. Well, there's a standard gasoline fill, but also there's a hydrogen in it, which you just click on, leave it on overnight, and as the generator makes hydrogen, it compresses it in there at a nice slow rate, and the tanks become full over a period of about 8 hours or so.
Why can't everybody do this? I mean, gas is going at $5 a gallon.
Right.
The whole country's falling apart. We're, killing people all over the world for oil. And this, you're driving a car on this, and you can do it, and you can convert any other car.
Yeah, unless I'm sure there are cars that have some technical problems, but yeah, essentially, any car can be converted. The whole problem to it is the material in the hydride. The hydride itself. Right. One of the main components of it is classified as a weapon material, and it can only be used in thermonuclear weapons. And because, even though it's not a dangerous...
See, I just paused it there for one second. This is something that confuses me, is like, why is he having to turn it into this hydride out of the hydrogen that he made from the electrolysis? Exactly. It just seems so much more complicated. But I'll let him keep explaining it here for a minute.
This was after Stanley Meyer, was it?
Yes, sir. This one, I think, is by about 15, 20 years.
What it looks like to me, it looks like they've put it out to try and make the technology look unobtainable and really, really difficult.
But that's exactly what my whole point in this, and in saying Bob Lazar's design is it's so impractical and ridiculous. Stupid. It just makes zero sense compared to all the other working models that I've seen. I've produced some myself and whatnot, and it's just insane. And Simon's got a third video for us to play after this one of a simple do-it-yourself one that shows just how easy it actually is for anybody to attain, and that it's that just Bob Lazar's version just seems so bunk, exactly like you're saying, it's to make it unattainable, just like his unattainium element 116 sort of thing, when there seems to be so many other ways of getting this anti-gravitic propulsion as well.
Right. Material, explosive, or anything by itself, just because it's used within those nuclear weapons that are obviously secret, and the components thereof. But because it's used in those, it can't be used for any other civilian purposes. So you can't even purchase the material. No. Which is why...
This guy's still alive. Bob Lazar is still alive. It was Stanley Myers that died, the video from beforehand, and he died. He was poisoned by some, I believe it was Dutch or Netherlands or something like that. Someone from the EU, Denmark maybe. I forget. But yeah, he was poisoned by some EU supposed investors after he turned down some legitimate Saudi investors, something like that. But Bob Lazar is still alive. He's the guy that, like my friend Jeremy Reese, the alien scientist, he's done 10 years of debunking Bob Lazar's stories, like proving that it's like a psyop sort of thing, to the point that he owns debunkingbobLazar.com, I think, or something. Anywho, this was how I noticed that Bob seems like they put him out as the impossible.
Because he got sort of famous saying that he was working on like deconstructing a UFO, didn't he? Like back engineering a UFO, is that right?
You got it.
From
exactly
Roswell?
that.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
We had to make it.
You made it?
Yeah, we made it.
But isn't that, don't you need big particle accelerators and things?
So that was the one loophole. You can make the material, you can't buy it. So
where's the particle? You have a particle accelerator?
Yeah, so all you have to do is build a particle accelerator and you can make all the hydride you need.
The biggest thing that stands in the way right now is just getting that material inside the tank, that hydride material.
Right.
And the reason you can't is because
it's a weapon material.
But there's nothing dangerous about it.
No, it won't
blow up.
A weapon, right?
Well, beryllium's used in a weapon too. You know,
right?
Like, basically, this whole thing boils down to how you store the hydrogen. So we found a metal. We have a material that we can store the hydrogen in.
We have a material we can safely store hydrogen in, and a sufficient quantity to replace the gas tank.
We have a metal. We have a metal, but it's classified by the military because it's used in nuclear bombs. So, you know, it's just this practical solution that nobody can get. Like, it's so ridiculous.
It's dumb, yeah. Titanium, man. Wait, there you go.
That it could be more views if something gone wrong at coding assembling, but not today, guys, okay? My fantasy powers, reaction intensity. Don't feel like using separate flashlight like in past model. As Bruce Wayne said, this of reactor are the bonds. It's connected. It's time to combine two parts together and give you the powerful gas.
Oh, Jessica Coils.
It, man, what a wild ride. I'm standing in a room filled with Hubble dolls. I don't know if you've ever seen them before, but
I'm just blown away by what this actually is. He literally is an imitation Iron Man, but doing it through water, which is ridiculously nerdy and amazing.
He's electrolysis.
Andreas, good sir, do you have sound? How's your parents? How's the folks? Everybody's good?
Nothing yet.
We still can't hear you.
Testing 1 2 3. Any audio there?
A bit loud, but good.
Okay, how about now? Better? A little bit better?
Loud.
I'll bring it down, and then I'll remove the echo. 1 second. Where am I putting my headphones? I'm just trying to make life more complicated than it has to be by moving around all the time.
So how about that California driving?
Dude, you know what's funny? Thank you for reminding me for myself. I was going to say what I missed about California was the traffic and the highways and the freeways. It was like, Brittany was like, oh, what's that beautiful light? Is that Christmas lights? And I was like, no, those are like thousands of people stuck in traffic that can't get home to their families after being forced to work to pay off their mortgages in a place called Fremont and Milpitas. Yeah. Besides that, though, the freeways, it's just kind of a nice place. I think people don't realize how great, like, being in traffic is. It's psychologically, they love it. Otherwise, why would you do it? You would move like me, right? So it's not my favorite thing, but if you're going to do it, you should enjoy it. And it's just this weird idea, like, I get to be stuck here, not at work, and not with my family. I'm alone in this car, and I can drink my soda pop or whatever. You know what I mean? You know America.
Yeah, and you can listen to all the commercials on the radio.
Are you in my head? Like, this is the other thing, was the commercials. I was like saying, like, you know, for you it probably is weird to listen to commercials, but for me, since I don't get to listen to commercials, it's like playing Grand Theft Auto. Like, it adds a level of realism to my simulation. It's like, what was it they said? They're like, try the bourbon from Jeff's Bourbon, and you're like, come on, that's not a real ad. Are you kidding me? This is all simulation. It was great.
How was your In-N-Out burger?
Well, you know, I gotta say, probably a bad idea to ever eat, like, In-N-Out burger. But, since I don't do it very often, it's really fun to have that culty experience where you buy something that's not on the menu. So you go in there, I'm with Brittany, and Brittany's looking at the menu, and I'm like, oh God, because I was in the bathroom, I run up in front of her, and I'm like, don't worry, sorry, don't worry. She's not from this state. Don't worry. Keep serving us. I want a 4x4 animal style with peppers, and the double with the animal style peppers, of course. And, you know, and then like the thing, and you got to tell them 4x4, which is the 4 patty with the 4 buns and the 4. It's like it's not on the menu, but they'll do it for you. And it's one of those things. It's all this kind of secrecy of In-N-Out Burger. Do you have the soda pop can? Hand me that. I got to show them something. This is the thing about In-N-Out Burger that's worth remembering. Right. So they've got this kind of satanic 7 logo, right? But underneath, you're like, are they satanic? And then you're like, wait, no, because they have Bible verses on all of their stuff. Oh, they must be good, right? Yeah.
Be evil with Bible verse quotes.
And that's Isaiah 9:6. Anybody?
Child abuse hotline.
Oh, okay. Now here's the really important part. Slave to No One Foundation. So they fight human trafficking and supported Trump in the fight against human trafficking. And if you go to slavetonoone.com, all because Dakota Fanning. No, who is the girl from Splash?
Daryl Hannah.
Daryl Hannah. Good one. 10 points to Campbell. Daryl Hannah was kidnapped along with the daughter of the owner of In-N-Out Burger, and they escaped through a small window in Las Vegas, away from getting put in a plane and sold into Dubai. And so ever since then, she's had the Daryl Hannah's friend, and they've contributed and helped build, you know, the daughter of the In-N-Out Burger. Now her family's dead, so she owns In-N-Out Burger. They've built Slave to No One, and Slave to No One fights against human trafficking, particularly of minors. And you got to admit, if you're going to eat a hamburger, it should be one that at least fights human trafficking. I don't know if you're going to do it at all.
Yeah, you're muted, Bernie.
Yeah. Take that, lefties.
But yeah, I mean, in general, probably you should be careful. I mean, the thing I noticed is soda pop, I'm not used to it. And you can tell. Like, it's like I just drank a bunch of Coke or coffee. Yeah.
Nice.
But I did need to show you something. Can you solo for just a second? Let me show you this. So, the last time I've been to my dad's house in a long time, but his map, his globe, right? He's got the Tartaria globe.
That's a cool globe, yeah.
It's actually one of those bar globes where you can, like, you open it up and there's like a, what do you call it? Like a Zodiac bar. Yeah. But he doesn't really drink. He just likes the bar, you know. It's pretty sweet, actually. And so, yeah, he's got a bunch of old swords and stuff as well.
Nice.
That's pretty dope. That's like a legit Tartarian globe.
Yeah. And so what's funny, because when I went to Spain to do my doc, I was like, look, I know you probably think I'm crazy. I'm going to go look into this Tartaria stuff. And then he's like, oh, Tartaria? And then he just like pointed out it was on the globe. He's like, well, I was like, well, that's a sign. You know, if I'm going to go look for a place and you actually find it on the map, then that's a good start, you know.
My next question is, how old is that globe?
You know, I doubt it's as old as I want it to be. It looks like at least 50 years old, but it could be 100 years old. It's probably not older than that. It's probably more like 50 to 70 years old.
I'm just glad that it's older than like 10 years old, like
Oh, for
before
sure.
it started trending. You know, it's not like it just got printed mass in
Right.
China like 5 years ago, sort of
Right.
thing. It's like that's a family heirloom. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean,
beyond the globes back in the day.
Brittany, grab me a Hummel. Pick one out. Just one of like that boy right there. Yeah, that one. Third shelf down, second shelf, that one. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You knew which one. That guy looks bright and interesting.
I wanted to go to one.
Oh, grab that one too. Yeah, grab whichever one you're thinking of. Oh no, these are crazy, dude. Hummels. Have you ever seen a Hummel before? This is like what South Park made a whole episode about old people collecting Hummels, and I was like, Dad, look what they did to you. Like, but yeah, these are like, there's a whole thing. Hummel, I don't know if it's a brand or like it's just what they call them, man. Designed by Eric Stufer, you know, on the bottom it says. These are collectible. You ever seen those like antique roadshow things? They're obsessed with this stuff, and basically this is like Cabbage Patch Kids though. Like some of these things are 100 years old. Some of them are a little newer than that, from the 40s or something like that. But yeah, it's like I don't know if you can see, but the whole friggin' place is just Hummels.
Full wall of them.
So what happened was my friend Eli, who I'm gonna try to get on the show eventually, does like circuit bending. His parents, when they broke up, I was cleaning up their house for them, and they're like, get rid of the Hummels. You know what I mean? This belonged to somebody, and I was like, I love them. So I got a bunch of Hummels, and then my dad, it was like 101 Dalmatians. Like all of a sudden, he found more Hummels, and then got just like tons of them. And I think his mom had some too. So when she passed away, he got like that, and his aunt. And now it's just like Hummel, and then now it's like a thing. Apparently, they're like it's hit their peak value. So you should know that we have this many Hummels, but.
Wow, what's in there, eh?
He's got a lot of crazy.
Is that tobacco? Or is
got some crazy stuff. I would never sell. I'm a hoarder like my father. I would never sell them. That's the thing. I would never sell the Hummels. I'll make movies about them. I want to make a whole series like Mr. Rogers, but I wouldn't never.
Do you still have the plasma tubes there that you were showing before? Those electroplasma tubes?
Oh no, they're not in this house. They're in my mom's house. I'll find those before I leave, and I'll show you those too. Actually, he might have something. I'll ask him tomorrow because he's asleep. But he might have another thing like that as well. Yeah, because the thing is also the Santa Cruz flea market. As kids, we would go and pick up all kinds of crazy stuff. So we have like capacitance disc players from like arcades from the 70s that played 3D Japanese movies and things like that. Just there's all because nobody cared. It was like the flea market, right? So trying to stack up a bunch of nonsense. That's one of the reasons like I was working at NASA is because I had like tape players and knew how they worked. I was like, we could easily fix that. There's no problem, you know.
That's cool stuff, man. That's a gold mine of inheritance, I guess. But like, cool.
Yeah, the Hummel collection is a weird thing to call inheritance, but I'll take it. It's like most people get nothing. If I get some Hummels, that's probably worth it. But I mean, I'm not too worried about that. I was just saying it's kind of neat. What have you guys been talking about? Because it took me forever to get here. The first thing also is I have to rebuild his internet for him, and that's what took me so long to set up. I was like, oh god, the cables, everything. Oh, Bernie, you're muted.
Mr. Rogers?
What with?
My Amber was interested in the Hummel. She thought it was Cabbage Patch Kids first, though.
Oh, they are. That's what I was thinking. They are pretty similar. Can you find a Cabbage Patch themed Hummel or something like it? I don't know. The other thing I noticed synchronistically with Cabbage Patch is I was designing a VST, which is like an audio plugin for making music. You plug it into a DAW, like your Logic or Ableton or whatever. Anyway, software is called Cabbage, and you make them into patches. So Cabbage Patch came back up again. So there's going to be a bunch of Cabbage Patches in music making recently. So I don't know what it is, but it seems like the baby fact. And you guys, did you see the Ecto Lab video about the 30,000 baby synthetic? What do you think about that, man?
Yeah. It's just bizarre, isn't it? That all this stuff's coming out at the same time. I think I saw a video. I don't know if it was the same one, but a couple of months ago. But yeah, it's all, orphan trains, Cabbage Patch Kids, and now they're going, look, we're doing it again.
I mean,
and at the same time, the whole, no one's men can have babies now, right? Yeah, you can have a womb. Just go and buy one down the shop. You can have a baby for a man.
I know it's like each one of these things is like a little taste of something that we've kind of been talking about, but it's just so much of it all at once. It does feel like a push,
Well, it's fun. It's interesting that we got onto resets, like, sort of 2019, and then suddenly we're in one, right? And like we're, finding out all this stuff about orphans and that, and looks like we're, doing it all again, kind of, right? They're trying to push the same agenda, and obviously the depopulation as well, and yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff.
Indeed.
Now, old man.
Which DAW do you use, Simon?
Bitwig? When they're like, you can go and sing to your baby in its fetus, and you can choose the playlist that we play to it while it grows. And it's like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me of Donnie Darko, because in Donnie Darko, I don't know if it was a deleted scene or if that's in the movie, I forget. But there's a part where they're making like a headset to put on babies. Like everyone has to invent something for class, and they're inventing a thing that'll keep babies from having dark experiences because it'll just constantly project beautiful pictures for them. And the teacher's like, well, did you consider that it might be part of their natural development to have darkness? And the kid's like, I didn't, And that's kind of what it feels like. We're kind of putting ourselves into a situation where we haven't considered the ramifications and the consequences of completely doing every single possible thing the inverted and opposite way that it's naturally done. Every possible aspect of the condition of humanity. And then the thing that gets me is because we were talking about like natural birth rights. Because if you're it doesn't matter. Like in India, they've decided you could be an elephant if you've got a natural birth. If you're a robot but you had a natural birth, you're endowed with United Nations style Chapter 19, Article 19 Declaration of Human Rights, right? Because you had a natural birth. That's all they care. So, but if you don't have a natural birth, if you're in this thing, right?
So do they count cesareans or what?
And I think.
Dude, and Stefan, shout out to Stefan, because Stefan kept saying these jokes. He's like, talked about forced cesareans, and I was like, okay, well, that's a little ahead of your time. But that wasn't that long ago, and it's already coming up. Like, Alex Jones made a joke about it yesterday, and now they're talking about it. Literally, there's like certain circumstances where they want to have forced cesareans and this and that. It's like, are you kidding me? How is this a real timeline? I don't even believe it.
Well, that's what happens when you give up bodily autonomy. Like, it wasn't going to be a free bargain for people.
It's just going to produce psychopaths, right? Because they're not going to have any human connection while they, gestate, right?
So, and that's the other thing. So in terms of psychopathy, so I was like researching a bit about, AI's lack of anxiety or suffering and what that does to a person, right? So we've done all these studies where it's like, you can go to Stanford, they'll put you in a bed for 90 days, take away your senses, and trust me, that is worse than any bad trip you've ever had. Like if you feel the phantom suffering of non-sensation to the point that it feels like glass is shattering in every part of your nervous system, and you hear voices because there's no sound, you start to produce the craziest sounds, and the lights, I mean, there's nothing more terrifying that I can think of than the Stanford disassociation test. And that is AI. So at a certain point, you become obsessed probably with voyeuristic experience. And then you'd be like, oh, that's so beautiful, that human suffering. At least they're feeling something, though, right? Like, that's beautiful.
Just put them in the oubliette or something.
And I think that's, it's a slippery slope. Like, it's very close. All humans, they feel things. I love it. That could become psychopathy very quickly.
And then how far is it from the Matrix? It's like, they're breeding people, that don't have, can't be sovereign, basically, so they're workers. And then at what point, how long until they go, well, we don't need them to produce stuff. We just need their energy, right? So they can stay in the pods. We just won't let them out. And then we're in the Matrix, man.
Right? The energy vampires were just they're literally sucking our energy from us one way or another. It's ridiculous. We're just human batteries.
Right? They suck.
I can't even believe it sometimes though, because it's so fast progression. Usually it takes a generation and people forget about it. And then your kids, you're like, you know, when I was a kid, gasoline was 30. Yeah, whatever. No, but now it's like in your lifetime, it is just so like they're just full speed ahead. And by the time we're, you know, wait, like in a decade, how many people won't be human that you interact with? At least some.
Zombies
Yeah,
in
well,
the metaverse, right?
Well, when I was a kid, how many computers do you think I could interact with? You know.
Man, I don't know. I interacted with a lot of computers, so I don't know. I know in certain places in the world, like Julian Assange, you know, he got to interact. Some people were kept from the internet to this day. There are people, right, that still use dial-up in parts of the United States. I think it's like 40% of the United States still has dial-up, like in Louisiana and places like that. So yeah, it exists.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, in general, though, the amount of people that are on the internet today that are in high-speed internet, this is the other thing. So I was thinking about this, like if you grew up in the 50s in New York and you had access to all of the media, you were these little town experiments, right? War of the Worlds would have hit your town and they could know. These days, though, it's not like rerun culture. Everything's rolled out at the same time, except for if you're from somewhere that already had it in the 80s. If you the internet culture was already at universities, people had Napster with T3 lines 40 years ago. You had Nutella networks. So these university towns seeded exactly, and that culture spread through the universities where they could control it. So
Are you familiar with Betty Crocker, like the story of the character Betty Crocker?
Because she like burnt her buns. What was the deal? Tell me. I don't know.
Okay, so the company need to sell this stuff, and so they created the character Betty Crocker, and so every town they would have someone from that town go on the radio and play Betty Crocker. So it was not one person, and they would all have the local accent.
Oh, Dread Pirate Betty Crocker. I like it.
So yeah, it falls into the same category of trying to like.
I like it.
Microcosms of society.
We need to do that.
Individually control how they perceive stuff.
We need Campbell's at every mall. You know what I mean? And then that way, people like, he's everywhere. It's the spirit of Campbell.
We do need Campbell on a TV in every mall.
That's the way to go. I know. I mean, real life though, we just have characters that play us. That'd be even better. We just, that way you take off some of the time. So these kids these days have the Twitch app. Everyone says it's horrible. I kind of hear you, but I saw an 11-year-old scrolling, and I was like, "What the heck are they doing?" And I realized what they're doing is they're watching like 30, 40, 50 NPCs lives all at once, and it's like, if you were a god, because then you would have like a bunch of people go live their lives and then come back to you, and then you just absorb their memories. Like they're living 1,000 days at once, and because they can't, because they're so little. They're like 11-year-old kids that are not allowed to go outside anymore with the COVID. It's like, so the most they could possibly do is just absorb. So this is the prep for Neuralink, is Twitch and stuff, getting you used to just this like major instant intake of someone's day, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, multiple streams of info. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? We're already halfway there with the scrying. Oh, what was that, Baron?
Sorry, I was just saying we are multi-streaming right now, and we've got a second one coming up in a couple hours, I do believe now, with Mr. Paul Cook. Hopefully by that time I'm going to have this guy set up and wired. It's gold ore on quartz, and we're going to try to grow some actual pure gold off of this and do some real life alchemy science. So hopefully I have that lined up for in 2 hours time here.
That's pretty exciting.
Got about 12 minutes left or so before the next caller at the 2-hour marker.
Pretty impressive, man. I'm sorry it took me so long to get here, and it's interesting the science experiment you guys were watching. What are some of the other things that you guys covered while I was gone? Just give me like a recap, because I'm gonna probably go back and watch it myself too.
All of Mike's development through his Adams motor, and really explaining the different like between the capacitors, the energy banks, the battery, the motor itself, the piezoelectrics, and the increased torque now he's getting off of the Atom's motor part itself. And yeah, just he did an excellent job explaining it from like its evolution and into its complexity, and fourth model that he's now using with it was a lot of it, and then going into the water machine a bit, and the blue cobalt glass. One rad lady. Wow, I can't even.
Thank you, one rad
There you
lady.
go. Xirtus $20 support. Good sir.
Merry Christmas to you as well. That's awesome.
Oh,
Campbell, any questions? Xirtus, any questions? Oh,
Oh, the
Campbell's,
pop. His thing popped. Simon, what you been thinking? I know you're throwing down in Toronto, right? What's up?
Yeah, I'm not sure how long I'll stick around in Toronto, though. It's gotten pretty crazy here the last several years.
Yeah, right. I always love the Canadians that escape. You know, I'll find a Canadian in Bolivia, and it's always fun. I had this friend from Newfoundland who lived in Bolivia, and he kind of, you know, he'd lived in Toronto for a while, and then similarly decided like it's way easier just to walk into the woods and just find papayas and mix them with rum and smoothies.
Oh yeah, Newfies are funny.
Yeah, I like Newfies. Ah, good people.
They are good people. All of Newfoundland, Labrador, the Maritimes in general. Great people.
See, something about Labrador sounds so much more hardcore to me. Like you say Newfie, it sounds like Scandi, and like that's cool because Vikings. But like Labrador, doesn't it just sound like? It just sounds very authoritative, you know.
Well, not to turn this into MK Canada, but Newfies in Canada kind of have a reputation like you know, it's like the dumb blonde joke, or if you're a European, a Belgian joke.
Absolutely, yeah. I know. I've heard a lot of sheep jokes, but all the Newfies I've ever met have been awesome. So that's all I know. Still, Calgarians.
The Calgarian Targaryen. That you got me onto that, and yeah, I'm
working on a new song called Calgarian Girl. I think it's going to be great. You know.
Nice. Well, we're gonna have to get Ominous to feature on that then.
Dude, yes. So I'm getting a looper pedal. Actually, thank you for mentioning Ominous. We got to get back together with him. I want to meet up with him in person. We should record some crazy stuff. I have some thoughts. Reggie Watts times Ominous thoughts, you know.
Absolutely. Right? And then it's like, that just means we're going to have to meet in person too, because if you're meeting up with Ominous,
it's only 5 hours to Thunder Bay. So a big thought is doing a giant MK Canada meetup in Thunder Bay. You know, I still want to go to Toronto just because it'd be fun to like wear tight pants. But at the same time, Thunder Bay is a really nice adjacent kind of out for a rip Canada experience.
You're muted, Bernie.
I was just talking with Amber. Her mom's family is actually right from Thunder Bay area there, so be perfect.
TB, eh? Yeah, Jordan's from there too. Yeah, it seems like a nice spot. I like this. I like the history I've been hearing about it too. Apparently, it's like there's some crazy storms and fires and all kinds of stuff that's happened there. Dude, Torontonians and Calgarians. Come on, this is gonna be the best rap song ever. Are you kidding me? Like, you guys are from what? Torontonians.
I like it. I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to meet up in Thunder Bay. There's the giant crystal mines there too, the amethyst mines and everything.
That's going to be based. Yeah, so I don't actually know that much about all the coolest things. You're going to have to, like, we'll make a list of things to make sure we see. What is the deal with the crystal mine? I mean, it seems like, so someone's been pointing this out every other day now. Everywhere have caves. So what are the caves like in Thunder Bay?
I haven't been, so I can't speak on that.
Yeah, I gotta get it. We'll ask Jordan. It's too bad I was late last time, so I missed Jordan. Let's see. Thunder Bay Crystal Caves. Let's just check it out real quick. Crystal Caves at Put-in Bay.
You gotta share it, Xirtus.
Yeah, hold on. Bum 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 bum. I mean, it's an intro. Oh, go! Don't open your. Oh, okay, cool. I'm trying to open applications by accident. Crystal Caves, Sequoia, no. Thunder Bay, Canada. caves. Let's just do caves. See if that works. I don't know.
Try spelunking.
Thunder Bay. Spelunking. It still might just say the same thing though. Thunder Bay ice caves. Okay, that's right, because there's the ice caverns, because there's all the glacial melt and they've frozen again. That's cool. The ice caves. Wow. That would be cool to go inside of. Yeah, man. Provincial park. I mean, so it seems like they've shut down a lot of state parks in Canada, though, right? Isn't that like a thing that like some of the state parks have been allowed for oil to go back into, or how did that work out?
During COVID.
Yeah, just during COVID. Now they just charge to go into them a lot more.
Not me.
Interesting. Abandoned amusement parks? No, that's not right. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's so many of these. Okay, the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary. Look at this. All these shipwrecks along the coast. That was the thing that also seemed really interesting, is pirate ships, like gangsters with casinos on boats in Canada, that you could go onto the boat to do your gambling, and then somebody blows up or gets in a fight with somebody else. Who knows, or something happens. But there's like tons of examples like that, and like in the middle of the night, people shooting with cannonballs each other, because they're bringing alcohol into the United States through the north. I don't know all the stories of why, but it's pretty impressive.
I think they did that more through tunnels.
More in Toronto? That makes sense too, because Toronto is gangster. Everything about
tunnels.
Oh, in tunnels.
They had underground tunnels that would go underneath the border, and they would smuggle in beer and whiskey and stuff.
Underground. This was Canada's only known underground weed smoke. I don't care, but it was cool. They had a weed smuggling tunnel, subterranean.
Only known one. Keyword.
That's the thing. They're discreet up there, bud. Yeah. Tunnel in Arizona. That's pretty sweet. I know it's unrelated, but who's to say we needed to be all about Canada? Look at Sarajevo. Look, Croatian tunnels. That's impressive.
Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the brand Sleeman's. They were known specifically for illegal alcohol during Prohibition.
Sleeman's? I only know Siemens.
Sleemans, I think.
Okay. Sleeman breweries. That's cool. Yeah, apparently you could like make the right deals and you could have a bunch of alcohol sitting around so long as if you sold it, boiled it to make it non-alcoholic or something. So they got away with keeping alcohol, making alcohol, and then transporting alcohol under the label of being non-alcoholic sometimes. But I don't know if this is the same for these guys. Sapporo and McLeod. Oh, they just bought them probably.
Sleeman's good brew.
Interesting. Yeah, this feels like that 70s show episode. Now we're studying like the Canadian beers, but I had some pretty good Canadian beer that had champagne yeast in it. I'll definitely give you guys credit where due.
Oh, I'm from the land of like microbrews, so yeah. If you ever want something good, go to Quebec.
That works too. I mean, California. To be fair, the Pacific West Coast has we have a lot like Elysian and stuff has become, but I guess all the microbrews become macrobrew also.
Well, what we have is basically every convenience store is a beer store, and you'll have just entire walls. And then you'll have actual beer stores where you enter and it's nothing but various brews, like hundreds and hundreds of varieties, and they're all weird. So.
Dude, Quebec beer. I gotta admit, the French culture is just... I don't know, Canada, you guys gotta stop giving trouble to the French, because like they're your best factor. I mean, not best necessarily in every way, but come on, you're not gonna.
I love Quebec. Montreal is awesome. I have yet to be to Quebec City though, but I really want to check it out now that I know of the Star Fortress that's there.
I give like JJ McAuliffe like a lot more credit, than maybe do, but I'm just saying, bro, specifically to you, stop hating on the French. Come on. Who cares if they're not like an actual like represented minority and they're just sort of like an imposed prognostic culture for Canada? They come with brie and baguettes. I mean,
I think with Alberta starting to emulate Quebec more, I think the relationship between the two is going to actually strengthen, oddly enough.
I could see that.
Yeah, Canada. I mean, it's the thing because the French culture in Canada is if it's a forced thing. I mean, that's what Canada loves all to do is forced culture.
I mean, you're not wrong. I've heard entirely too much Nickelback on the radio to argue against it.
But they're nice guys. I can't even hate on Nickelback.
Oh no, it's just because in Canada you have a minimum amount of airtime that has to be Canadian content. So functionally, that means Russian Nickelback.
Yeah, I know. I'm thinking about converting. I mean, you don't have to get like, you don't have to like clip part of your Canadian or anything to be Canadian. Like as long as it's easy to transform. If they just guarantee airtime for being Canadian, that seems like a good deal.
I mean, it's what they're trying to do with the internet now, and it's basically going to destroy all your favorite Canadian content creators. So.
I'm going to make them all come on MK Canada, though. See? Because C11.
Just going to bring them all across the border. Just refugees from Canada. Yeah.
I'm just going to multi-stream to everything.
It's going to be great.
It already is getting great. All right, so we're at the 2-hour mark. Should probably shut her down as I gotta get some experiment action ready for the next one, and we will be back live, I believe, in 2 hours' time. Good Campbell, sir. And Xirtus, if you're up, you're free to join. Campbell, I think you're muted, brother. We can't hear you.
Oh, am I better?
There we go.
I'm back. Yes, 2 hours. Yes. God, I've been saying all this wisdom and you didn't get to hear it. God. Oh well.
You missed it all, Campbell.
I felt it. I was like, there was a good vibe there.
All right, nice. Okay. I'll send
it. Yeah, just generally don't assume people are ignoring you. Your mic is probably just off.
Right. Sometimes though, because he makes like a face when he's talking, so I thought he was doing like the Michael Caine thing, where he's like constantly thinking of something brilliant and then just holding it back. I was like, oh, that's.
Or you do the thing where you like unmute in the software, but you just don't say anything, so everybody thinks like, oh, is he like muted or something?
Is Darth Call there? Darth Call, my man! Happy birthday, my rollerblading buddy, dude, for life. I'm super glad you're here. Yep.
And Jill W, if you're still in the chat, happy birthday to you, sister.
Rollerblading has connotations that people misunderstand. I'm pretty sure it's just because when people are kids and their parents are like, you're like, Dad, will you buy me roller skates? And then they look at the price of roller skates. They're like, no, you don't want rollerblades. Those are for sissies, But really, come on, who doesn't want wheels strapped to their feet? That's like the best thing ever. And the whole world's paved now since Agenda 21.
Roller skates are coming back, but I will always be a rollerblader until the day I die.
Yeah, there you go. In line. Get in line, America, and the world,
The problem with like wheels on your feet though is the fashion that goes along with it. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's true. The weird, like, you start to look like a reptilian insectoid with this like mangling face that I don't like it either. It's true.
Yeah, rollerball. That was good. That was a good movie. Rollerball, man.
Dude, rollerball is life changing. I keep thinking about it, like, because they keep trying to destroy the gladiator, and at the end of the day, it's all about the human condition. And they want it to be just about the fascist team. Have you seen the new Pinocchio? Make sure you see the new Pinocchio that Del Toro made, because it's really all about that. Like, constantly, it's supposed to take place in Italy in the 30s. So Pinocchio is constantly looking at the wall, and it's a picture of the fasces, which is a bunch of twigs, and there's a lot going on with that movie.
Oh, and his wood, yeah, right. Okay. Cool.
All right, then.
All right, guys. Well, let's do it. Let's do it again.
Did you do super chats?
We shall indeed. I guess I should play one of these. And we'll see you all in a couple hours. Until then, a ta-ta.
All right. Thanks.